Since we are dealing with military equipment, the spark plugs have these covers on them. You won't be able to pull a plug and check whether you have spark or not. You have to resort to some trickery. There's an aperture in the carburetor? Oh right, I see it right there on the side. There doesn't seem to be any fuel. It's dry in there. Awesome. What if we prime it? There we go. Should we fire it up? Let's try that again. Now this I like. Gentlemen, this is one of those occasions when we're starting things in a hurry. So we're filming a BRDM. Let me just say, since this is a machine made specifically for the military, any sort of common sense and logic have basically been thrown out the window. This isn't a machine you live with. It's a machine for saving lives. Its main purpose is going on small-scale combat and reconnaissance operations. That's what it was made for. Let me get into a bit more detail on this thing for you guys. There are quite a few quirks here. You can walk around this vehicle literally for hours, studying all of these air ducts, an absolutely surreal amount of shutters and flaps, hatches and doors. This thing is also equipped with some lighting and a winch. And that brings us to why this car was bought in the first place. As you know, we are located in Russia. This is actually an important part of the equation. After all, if you do live in Russia, you can actually legally purchase machinery such as this. I mean a tank or an armored car. And the only thing you need to drive around in this thing is a tractor license. So you get yourself a license, and after that you put a license plate right onto the armor, place the registration into your pocket, and you're free to drive around on public roads. I can't really imagine such a picture in real life, but this particular car recently drove to and from an exhibition under its own power, using normal roads without having to call in a tow truck. Then again, a tow truck wouldn't even be able to handle this 8-ton beast. You'd have to call in a trailer. That's gonna cost you a fortune. By the way, these can be had for as little as $4,500. After you buy this car for $4.5 grand, people will start giving you that profane Russian joke about tractor drivers. But then again, you yourself already have your license, so these jokes aren't gonna go anywhere. Anyway, you'll need another $14,500 to turn it into something like we have here, where you just get in, go fetch some gas in our case, start the thing and go for a drive. Let's talk about the lighting and all of the accessories on this car. As you might have guessed, this gear isn't army spec, and the base car didn't come with any of this stuff. This is actually a rolling demo vehicle for a company called Red BTR. These guys produce this lighting themselves, as well as these winches. This thing also doubles as their test bed. I don't know why I've decided to say this all of a sudden, but you might find some links in the original video description. You can buy all of their stuff if you want. Oh man, what is wrong with me? Why am I saying all of this? Anyway, so this car is used for both demonstration and testing purposes. Before selling you this winch, these guys put it through its paces using this BRDM. So this car is basically being used for a peaceful cause, so that you can turn your lighter machinery that doesn't have as much going on into something a bit more loaded, in the civilian sense of the word. On the front end, we see this so-called skid plate, which is in fact a sort of breakwater. Again, this thing has... It has sort of a... It has some sort of... You can hear some sound coming from the back. I can't hear any swearing. Say some bad words for me. That helped, as always. Anyway, this here is sort of a breakwater. It has nothing to do with off-roading. It's for when this car goes for a swim. Unfortunately, though, I'm not stupid enough to take this car into any sort of water since I'm worried we would definitely drown it. It does work, though. This car is in good shape. And we do have an unusual hatch in the back. This hatch is opened using the same switchgear and the same hydraulic system as the breakwater on the front end. It actually covers up the water cannon. Show me something, dude. There we go. And this is what makes this thing seaworthy. Here we have a rud... Soldier, what the with you blasting a commanding officer in the back. Anyway, we have a few rudders and a propeller. It's the same principle as in a boat. This thing spins up, drawing water from the... There we go. Awesome. Alright, so this car is completely sorted. It draws water from underneath the body and spits it out right here, which allows for this thing to actually swim. It obviously has a pump which removes water from the cabin. And there's also an oxygen supply, which allows for sealing the cabin off completely. This car actually comes with oxygen tanks and base trim. In the event of a chemical attack, all of the hatches are sealed, while the crew is supplied with whatever oxygen is left in the car itself. So even if this thing were to sink, the crew would still have some time to think about what to do. But that's obviously the worst-case scenario. Even these gills on the rear end are actuated by hydraulics. You've got a bunch of links in there, with the drive mechanism itself located closer to the driver, so the system extends towards the front. In hot summer weather, they tend to keep these shutters open. As for these handles, well, they're for hanging onto. The shutters themselves are a bit too heavy to lift, but you can open them at the press of a button. Probably. It's all a bit complicated. You do need a few years of experience to get the hang of operating this thing. To get a basic understanding as to when all of this stuff starts working. As for the rest of the hatches, you can actually open them manually, both from the outside and the inside. Allow me to demonstrate. If we take a look up here, we can see that this car is quite inaccessible. All of the hatches are shut, and they're hermetically sealed. I should say there are a bunch of them here. First off, we have the driver's hatch. Right. Then again, at least I've got myself this BRDM, so I didn't really lose anything here. As for the second hatch, I forgot how you call the second crewman. And here we have a third hatch, where you often have a machine gun tower sitting. Which isn't happening in our case, obviously. So this is typically the place where the gunman does his thing. You can use it to access the cabin, where there's actually plenty of room. There would be a bunch of equipment in a true combat spec vehicle, of course. However, here it's all been removed. And here we have yet another hatch for getting out. There we go. You use this to remove everything from the cabin. But you can also use this hatch to exit the vehicle if you want. It's all held in by latches. Bear in mind that this hatch is extremely heavy due to the fact that it's clad in armor. That's why they put this torsion beam here, which helps you get it open. Without this beam, you're not getting this thing open. But that's not even the entire story. There's still the matter of the engine bay. Since this car is slightly sporty in its nature, the engine here is located in the back, making this a rear-engine car, if you can call this thing a car. The motor is right beneath us at the moment. It's a 5.5-liter V8. Say what you will about it being an older carbureted gas motor, but this thing pulls nicely, believe me on that. It's all covered by... Can't really call this a hood, even though that's what the operator would call it. Let's just call it an engine cover. It's all held in place with a few latches. When you open the hatch, it stays in place. Anyway, that's how you access the engine bay. This isn't the only way to do it, though. You can access the engine via the cabin, allowing for you to repair the car even when under heavy gunfire. You can actually squeeze yourself in there using the hatches inside the cabin. Plus, you have access ports on both sides. You can even remove the entire rear section completely. Despite the fact that everything here is covered with armor, armor, it's still put together in such a way as to facilitate repairs right in the middle of a field. You already saw us trying to get this thing started. So basically, if you have a 13mm spanner, a hammer, and a few screwdrivers, anything is possible. As for these auxiliary wheels in the middle, well, first off, they provide this thing with a massive breakover angle, basically allowing it to get over any sort of ramp. This thing will never bottom out. They come equipped with their own hydraulic pistons, which lower them to the ground and provide support. They also stow them away whenever they're not needed. These wheels are actually also driven, so the vehicle is propelled not only by the main wheels, but by these supplementary ones as well. However, they are driven by chains rather than axle shafts. This car is rocking a pair of live axles front and back, so nothing particularly unusual. For you to get an understanding of what's going on in the cabin, we're joined here by a seasoned soldier. He's already taken the right pose. I get a feeling that these seats were an add-on. I'd imagine the stock seats being quite a bit more firm. As a matter of fact, the spec sheet for this car said that the seats can be adjusted. I guess they thought this to be some sort of a perk. These, though, I'm guessing they're from a Lada or a Gazelle. UAZ? Stock UAZ seats, okay. I guess I'll be feeling it pretty soon. Notice that the front wheels in this car are on the same level as the driver. I reckon that's not a great thing if this vehicle ever happens to run over a landmine. That just doesn't seem very safe. Usually in armored cars, they tend to place the wheels further away from the driver in case of an explosion. There are quite a lot of switches in here, but I don't see the point of getting into any sort of detail. In any case, we do know how to solve this issue. I obviously have no idea what's going on in here, but the truth of the matter is that I only have one job, and that's setting off, as in at least trying to get the car to move. I will try doing it on my own, but I have a feeling that it just ain't happening. I don't think that this is gonna work. Let's talk about the switchgear for a minute. So this here is obviously the gear shift. You can even see there's a shift pattern diagram. Since we are talking about a simple GAWTBASS engine with a normal transmission, using the gearbox shouldn't be a problem. The clutch pedal here is super soft. Okay, so here we have... Right, this isn't gonna work. You have to double clutch it, right? Of course, to get everything synchronized. Alright, now that's just majestic, isn't it? Anyway, in this thing you have to double clutch. You can't even get a feel for the gearbox while the engine is shut off. Even a running engine wouldn't have helped much. This means we'll have to drive as soon as we get this thing running. What's this? That's the handbrake. Handbrake, okay. I'm guessing it's engaged at the moment, right? We can probably slowly start disengaging it. Okay, so this thing obviously has some air brakes. You can adjust the tire pressure from inside the cabin. Notice how they made this the most important gauge, while sidelining the speedometer and making it one of the smallest. They put it over here so that you don't even bother keeping track of the vehicle's speed. Here we have an oil pressure gauge and a ton of switches. They start over here and then go all the way back there. So much going on in here. We'll get to all of that a bit later. There are a few things I like in here. When the vehicle is completely sealed, like when you're underwater or you're surrounded by enemy troops, you have this here. It's sort of a periscope, except it isn't. It's a combat periscope. Oh, so that's what it is. Notice that each window has its own little pad for you to bang your forehead. You actually have some padding in your helmet as well, so it's all pretty convenient. There are a bunch of them in here. I also really like this here embrasure. If you were to overheat in a traffic jam, I mean, if you were to get a little hot in the head, you can open it up, sort everything without even looking, and secure the hatch. What a great feature. The dashboard seems to have a real aluminum finish to it. Is this actually aluminum or is this mild steel? I reckon this is actually mild steel painted silver. Well, yeah, they didn't care about saving weight. Of course not. Okay, so you can't adjust the steering column. Maybe we... What are you talking about? Oh, actually you can adjust it, but there's no memory setting, unfortunately. Now that's how an army veteran sits in this thing. Actually, if you were doing mandatory service and had to find a way to do some loafing, this is a great place to hide, isn't it? You just get inside wearing a helmet, open the hatch for some sunlight, and with that our national borders are secure. Awesome. Okay, so our goal here is simple, and that's starting the car, at least giving it a try. So the kill switch is obviously activated. We gotta find a way to disengage it. Okay, let's see. What if I try this one? That's the turn signal. Why does this even need turn signals? Alright, so the development team obviously had a sense of humor. Now, how do we turn this thing on? This one? No? So this definitely isn't it. That's the kill switch. It works both ways. Oh, so it works both ways, huh? Okay, what did I just do? You switched it on, apparently. I switched it on, apparently. You won't know until you turn the ignition on. Ignition on. Okay, I see. This should be a simple matter now. No need to press the clutch, since the motor is still warm. Now I just push the starter button and give it some gas. By the way, where's the choke? If you just put your hand through here, I see a prop shaft. Oh, it's the one connected to the transmission. And we have a couple of plungers. To the right you have a manual throttle switch, just like on a tractor. Choke is on the left. Choke is on the left. We won't need any of this, though. I suggest we fire it up. Press the clutch for good luck. Alright, much better than earlier this morning. Okay, first gear. That's second. I screwed that one up. I reckon it'll actually start in second gear. Then again, it is a 4-speed, so it might not. Or will it? Right. It doesn't have a tacho, man. So far, so good. And we've come to a stop. That was the handbrake. I am a shit driver when it comes to military machinery. I've got a lot of learning to do. At best, I'm qualified to handle a shovel, but definitely not something like this. Now we're going backwards. You might have noticed that this thing doesn't have any mirrors. To be honest, I'm driving in reverse and I really have no idea what's behind me. And I don't know how long I can keep this up. There's nothing in here to help you. Let me just get it into neutral. And now we get to the scary part. We have 500 meters of airstrip ahead of us, and a 4-eyed dude behind the wheel. Time to have some fun. We've got ourselves a V8. Give it some gas. More gas? Are you insane, man? I'm already scared as it is. Okay. We are going 30 k's an hour, people. This is terrifying. It feels like the motor is about to pop out. What a great way to do some army service. 50 k's, we are flying now. 50 k's, guys. Awesome. What the hell, man? That's enough. Time to get into neutral and start braking. The brakes actually aren't that bad. These air brakes are actually quite lovely. That was pretty wild. Road surface quality is not an issue for this thing. The ride is super comfortable. And I definitely approve your seating position. We were going only 50 k's an hour, but with zero hesitation. And it goes over anything. Yeah, you can go over anything. Seriously, guys, it's as if this thing came straight out of hell. Although you can actually manage it. Now we try getting into top speed, which is probably around 60 or something. Alright, time to get this car up to speed, with help from our seasoned vet. Good soldiers should always have a team. Yes, sir! Go left. Sir, we're not gonna make it, sir! Give it half throttle. Gotcha. Maybe we... Alright. Alright. Full throttle. Stab it twice. Stabbing it twice. It's working. Sir, we're being overtaken by some Germans. $55 k's? I mean, come on now. Show me something. 57. Come on now. We can do this. Almost there. We can do this. I know we can. Damn it. What can I say? This is actually hard work. And these helmets really do help keep the noise in check. As for all of these switches... Screw this. This would make sense only if you were serving in the army. There are some cars out there which are suitable for city use. But this thing is probably not one of them. Unfortunately, we can't take it to the city, since I don't have a machinist license, or a tractor license, what do they call it? And the prospect of taking this thing off-road scares the shit out of me. I don't want to get a 7-ton armored car stuck in the mud. We do have a winch, but right now we're in the middle of a concrete airstrip, so there's nothing to attach the winch to. It's not like we're carrying an anchor with us. Plus, I don't really have a feel for the throttle and the brakes, but we do have our sergeant with us, and he won't hesitate for a second. When it's all said and done, I've just got to say that I've encountered a truly unique vehicle here. It's one of those rare cases when military machinery doesn't make you feel as if you were in the army. What's surprising is the fact that the motor and the gearbox in this thing are anything but military spec. The seats are also from a passenger car. I like the fact that Red BTR installed some new lighting onto this thing. I mean, it looks nice, wouldn't you agree? That lighting array on the roof, the winch. This car doesn't look dated in the least. It's all quite modern with this paint job and everything. I reckon that you can actually make something luxurious out of a BRDM. I'd throw in an interior, do a blue vinyl wrap, install some rims, and maybe some more lighting elements. I genuinely like this thing. I'm actually seriously digging it, people. You shouldn't buy this car for having fun within city limits, but if you happen to be a prosperous young guy, and maybe not necessarily even young, this could be an interesting option for like a 5th car in your garage. To be honest, I was expecting something completely different, but this thing subverted my expectations in a really good way. I think this BRDM deserves a B+. If only it had an interior from a Hummer. Now that would be really nice. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Big thanks for watching. I actually feel pretty bad parting with this machine. Anyway, good luck to all of you, and goodbye.